Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today's Sunday, October 19th, 2025. And there was a theft from the Louvre. And it makes me think of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, because it was done like in broad daylight and they got away on scooters. Italian job. It just reminds me of my childhood. And I don't know. I just thought I'd mention it because it's news and has nothing to do with Canada. Are we going into a snap election in November? Lots of rumors, lots of people talking about a potential snap election, people saying Elections Canada is calling up, looking for space, hiring return officers, all sorts of stuff. So maybe Mark Carney is not convinced that his government is going to be able to pass with confidence this budget. And so there's a Nelson laugh in there somewhere, I'm sure. The ACCT, Senator Wu and Zexi Lee, Andy Lee is blowing the whistle on this, and she's saying that there's a whole lot of connections, and these connections are bubbling up, and so we'll talk about them. Nobody will do anything about them, but we'll know about them. So that's good, right? It's something. Legal nullifications of land ownership in Richmond, BC. And what does that mean for land ownership and property rights more broadly in Canada? Well, it means we don't have property rights in Canada, I guess. The Supreme Court might even be looking at this. This is being looked at as a precedent-setting case. And I read years ago that the United Nations was going to try and take control of the land via returning it, quote, returning it to the First Nations people or the Indigenous people, however you want to, whichever lens you want to view that through, and then saying, obviously you guys don't have the infrastructure to deal with this, so we'll just do it for you. And the place that I read was going to do it first was Australia, but it looks like they said, F it, let's just do Canada first. And so I think I can't believe that conspiracy took so long to come true, but here we are. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, Steve says City of Richmond is telling some homeowners that their property rights are in jeopardy following a Cowichan First Nations land claim. The Supreme Court ruling has set a dangerous precedent. Not so good. So here's the letter that people are getting. It says, notice to registered owner. LOL, right? Please take note that the recent BC court decision of Kunichiwa Tribes versus Canada 25 BC SC 1490 made some very important decisions which could negatively affect the title to your property. A briefing paper prepared by the City of Richmond staff is attached for your reference. If you look at the draft map attached to the briefing, your property is located within the claim area outlined in green. For those whose property is in the area outlined in black, the court has declared Aboriginal title to your property, which may compromise the status and validity of your ownership. This was mandated without any prior notice to the landowners. The entire area outlined in green is claimed on appeal by the Kunichiwa or Cowichan. I'm getting it wrong. I'm sorry. Cowichan First Nations. Not intentional. I'm just terrible at reading names, apparently. Given the serious impact of this court decision and the pending appeal, the city is hosting an information session to be held on Tuesday, October 28th, 25 at 7 p.m. at Richmond City Hall. Well, thank goodness they're having an information session? Not nearly enough. Where are the federal politicians speaking out on this? Is somebody who represents Richmond, BC as an MP speaking out on this? Currently, it's just the mayor and the city saying, hey guys, heads up, you may not own your house anymore, so come to this meeting and we'll tell you the same, because that's what the court said. Pretty wild, right? Nobody's speaking up about this. Please phone us at this number or email us at this email to confirm your attendance. We want to know who's showing up because we imagine a lot of people are going to show up. Mark says, Supreme Court rules Richmond and Portlands under Aboriginal title. This means your fee simple ownership might not be ownership at all. Canada just set a precedent that no homeowner is truly secure. They tax you like you own it, and then they tell you that you don't. So, right, all those taxes for nothing. John says, I tried to warn people during the last election, and Eby tried to mock me for it. He should resign. And here is Dave Eby mocking everybody, John Rustad and everybody. But Rustad actually voted in favor of this. So, I mean, Rustad doesn't have a leg to stand on. But here is Eby saying, this is helping people. It's not hurting people.
This work actually improves and increases prosperity for everyone. And John wants to say it wants to take something away from you. It wants to take your private property away from you. Nothing could be further from the truth. This work.
And here we are. He's a liar. Because look where we are. They're trying to take private property from the citizens who own it by just saying this actually is First Nations land, not your land. So, he was wrong, right? John Rustad says, we live in unprecedented times. In Richmond, homeowners are being told their properties may be at risk following a decision granting control of land to an Indigenous band. Property rights form one of the fundamental pillars of Western society. This decision cannot stand. Okay, but you voted for it, says Chris. BC Decepticons, right? They're not really conservative. And in 2019, says Chris, did Liberal BC John Rustad vote in favor of the IPA in BC? Yes, in 2019, John Rustad, then a BC Liberal MLA, voted in favor of the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People Act, DRIPA, or Bill 41. The bill passed unanimously in the BC Legislative Assembly on November 28, 2019, with all parties, including the BC Liberals, supporting it to align provincial laws with the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Wah wah, right? Like that's not so good. And this is a law that Canada ascribes to. I think Canada helped write it for the United Nations. And so we, the whole country, is at risk of this. And this is one example. This happened in 2019 of moving pieces. I often talk of this all as a big chess game, and we're watching this chess game roll out, which is why this show is interesting day after day, even though the format is pretty much the same, and I make the same tired Star Trek jokes. Shut up, Wesley. So it's one of those things. It's one of those things because the game changes, right? What's happening and the people in the positions move. People move in positions, and so you have to know where they are so you understand the broader game of what's going on. And so in 2019, they made this decision, and that 2019 decision cascaded down until we have what's happening today with Richmond, BC, and land title. The title is, this is an attack, and we're losing, right? If this was a hill we were supposed to defend, we just lost the hill, right? And what they did in 2019 laid the groundwork for the taking of the hill today. You understand? So this is why I look at these things like a chess game, because this is a chess game in action. And there have been multiple chess games. So like if you go to a chess tournament or a hockey tournament or something like that, there are multiple games to determine the winner. So in the 40s, in the Titanic was sunk in 1912, okay? Removing opposition to the Fed being created. The Fed was created in 1913. The Fed was created specifically so it could loan money to countries. To do what? What do the countries need to borrow money for? War. So 1913, the Fed was created to loan money to countries. In 1914, World War I started. Coincidence? Holy smoke, what a coincidence, right? Can you believe that coincidence? I can't believe that coincidence. And then the war happened and a whole bunch of people died. The goal was to fundamentally change Germany. Chess boards, right? Chess games, one after another. While those chess games are happening, the Fed is a piece on the board. And then after that chess game's won, next chess game rolls out. Who do we have here, right? And the new players on the board are defined. The players are moved. Objectives achieved, and a new chess game gets born. 1975, the new chess game is climate change. People get put on the board, science gets created, these ideas get shopped, people are onboarded to it, and so on and so forth. When they're done with it, next chess game comes out. And if we don't see these games, if we don't see what's happening, if we don't see the manipulation, we're still subject to their influence. It doesn't matter if we see it or not, right? So it's interesting to me. I like to watch. Here is Lion Advocacy. Jim McMurtry he's responding to Jim. Jim's responding to the city of Richmond, and Jim says, "When will they come for your house?" City of Richmond is telling homeowners that the status and validity of their home ownership, or of their ownership of the land, is in doubt because of a Vancouver Island band said that their great-grandparents once fished there. And Lion Advocacy says, I mean, in theory, if title is defective, homeowners who've been there, even if for a few generations, could be ordered off their land at gunpoint and or jailed if they don't go willingly. And this is what decolonization would look like in the extreme, which is exactly what these lunatics want. Make no mistake. I think that's exactly what they want. Keith is responding to this whole thing, and Steve is responding to this whole thing, and Steve is just telling people how it is, and vis-a-vis the letter sent by Richmond. And Keith says, neither the BC government nor the federal government has argued that freehold titles should be respected. They virtue signaled instead. BC property owners now reap that result. So our government betrayed these people, and they're still silent. Has Pierre Poilievre spoken out about this? I don't have anything from him here talking about that. So I don't know. Haven't seen anything yet. Bruce says, what happens when Aboriginal title is declared to be senior and prior right to private property? And Caroline says, for those whose property is in the area outlined in black, the court has declared Aboriginal title to your property, which may compromise the status and validity of your ownership, right? So yeah, the the land you thought you owned. Nope. I was gonna start the show with a land acknowledgement saying, I bought this house, I own this house, and I'm doing this show from this house that I own. Screw your Aboriginal title nonsense, because it's nonsense. It's an attack. And I decided, well, I forgot. I thought it was a good joke, and then I forgot. So there you go. Missed opportunities. Brittany says, I found a really good Hub article on the Cowichan case. I'm still getting it wrong, even though I think I got it right at the end of the first part. I'm still getting it wrong now. Apparently, this could also affect other parts of Canada if it goes to the Supreme Court. So, I don't want that to happen at all. The remanded says, I haven't gone through this in full, but I noticed it was granted to be heard by the Supreme Court. Snippets, issue 1, should this nation's application be denied for lack of standing, test for standing in Aboriginal rights and title cases, and then he's got standing there and good morning. And so they're discussing this. I don't think that we should have property rights decided in a court like this. This is a stacked game, a rigged game. The dice are loaded, right? Like this is not the way we should be doing this negotiation. And make no mistake, it's a negotiation. Greyman says this ends in 3 ways. 1, the BC government pays out every land title affected above market price and allows each title owner to move at their leisure in the next 100 years. So we will buy your land, and you can leave at some indeterminate date in the future, right? You've got a 100-year lease and here's your money. Pay them out. Maybe that's one way. Would you accept that? Would you take your money and run? I might run to another country if that was feasible. If they're gonna say nobody has property rights anymore, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Well, that's kind of what property taxes are, right? You can't own your house. You have to pay property taxes every year. And if you don't pay taxes, they take your house, right? So that's pretty wild. Canadian Greyman continues, 2, civil war breaks out between citizens, Indians, and government. Plausible. If nobody does anything and says, yeah, well, deal with it, guys. Suck it up. You can't sell your house now, right? And if you're in that affected area, you can't sell your house. It's worthless. I'm not going to buy that house, right? Oh yeah, it's got a swimming pool and stuff. Yeah. And like, can I lock the front door, or am I not allowed because somebody else owns the house and they want to come in and use the swimming pool, right? Like, it's worthless. 3, the ruling is overturned quickly and the legislation is solidified to protect and enshrine property rights for all Canadians. That would be the sane thing. That would be the thing that I would think Canada would have done in 2010. Like Harper would have said, you have to fix this and fix this now, for example, I think. Maybe he's less of a globalist than all the others, but maybe not too. So somebody somewhere in a saner time would have responded with number 3. But I think possibly one is a possibility, except that everybody's broke. We don't have any money. They'd print money, and the land would be much more valuable than the money. My gosh. So we're in a bad way in Canada, and everybody knows it, and it's getting worse. And I've got bad news. It's going to get worse before it gets better, because most people don't even see it yet. Most people are unbothered by all of this. They think this is the comeuppance for colonization and all that, which is insane. Because again, if you asked people in 1999, did Canadians colonize Canada and like in a terrible way, in a way that we should feel shame for, and hand our properties over to First Nations peoples? Most people would say no, right? Most learned people, most educated people, most professors in universities, most business people, they'd say, nope, stop talking crazy town. Like, no. And now all of a sudden that's the mainstream idea, but the majority of people don't think that still. I believe that the majority of people don't think that. I think that it's pushed on us by a loud group, and I think that loud group is less than 20%. I think it might even be less than 10%, but they own the media and they own enough money to put into, like this No Kings protest yesterday. It was bullshit. It ended at 1:00. Everybody just dispersed at 1:00. They ran out of money. Like it looks fake, and it looks manufactured in order to shut up the majority of people who would say the same thing to do here is restore land property rights and stop this insane legal nonsense, and maybe abolish the United Nations, right? Like a sane person would say, where's the real root of the problem here, and follow it all the way up, and then stop that thing. Right? And then all the rest of the problems disappear. Psh, gone. We'll make sure everybody understands property rights as they apply now. And you don't get to retroactively declare you own land that you don't own now. Sorry, if you want to buy that land, there's a pathway to buy that land. You can buy that land if you want to. But we're not just going to give it to you over people who've bought the land now. That's that. So, sanity? I don't know. Is that sanity? Is that crazy? I think that that's probably a pretty sane way to approach things, but we're not going to do that, I don't think. Wide Awake Media, let's move on to talk about digital IDs before we get into our grab bag of governance. Wide Awake Media is sharing this. Did you know the EU plans to launch its digital currency, the digital euro, in October 2025? And so this isn't van der Leyen, this is the central bank, the European Central Bank person, and her and van der Leyen look the same and they sound the same, and they could be sisters. Are they sisters? Here is the conversation about the digital currency. This girl is pretty funny. I don't know who she is. I think she's a TikToker. She's got a TikTok thing here. Here we go.
Did you know the EU plans to launch its digital currency, the digital euro, in October 2025?
The deadline for us is going to be October of 25.
Some say the centralized bank digital currency, or CBDC, would be a great way to let Europeans pay more easily across borders, or stop crime. Others say, hey, haven't we been paying with bank digital currency for decades? I vaguely remember using my digital bank card to order a taco blanket on Amazon while smashed on edibles last night. Why is this different? Well, it's the C. And the C word here is a big cunt. C means centralized, which is code for you getting fucked. The power will be with the European Central Bank. They are not elected by anyone, and they have as much control over your wallet as your average Berlin dominatrix has over most of her clients' testicles. Many believe this will give those in control the power to make people do less harmful things, like eating meat, buying petrol, or not complying with the government, or bypass local banks and pave the way for one large, powerful bank, or make privacy go bye-bye by making it possible to monitor everything you do, and perhaps connect it to a social credit system. But don't worry, this paper by the European Central Bank says it's possible we can have some degree of privacy for lower value transactions. Meaning, as long as you stay somewhere between a €2 soy bubblegum and a €90 I love endless immigration poster, nobody will be watching you.
Digital euro is going to have a limited amount of control. There will be control, you're right. You're completely right. We are considering whether for very small amounts, anything that is around 300, 400 euros, we could have a mechanism where there is zero control. But that could be dangerous.
Luckily, a similar system has been tested in China, and they are very happy with the amount of control it has given them over their slaves.
But it is piloted on a fairly large scale in China, is of use and of service to all citizens. So it is not something that is good for the elite, or is good for the young, or is good for some versus others.
Yeah, they want just control of everything. However, when it was rolled out in Thailand, we have a case study, and the case study says it failed, or it is in the midst of failing, apparently. So again, this is the internet. Take it with a grain of salt. I found this interesting, and I found this plausible. I hope this is the response of people, especially with failures and like places where your cell phone may not work properly. You go to a place that's a rural property and you want to buy some honey, for example, and your cell phone doesn't have signal. This whole thing doesn't work, right? So, and if it doesn't work, people aren't going to adopt it. I live in Guelph, and we did Mondex, which was supposed to be like the next version of Interact, and nobody used it. You got like $50 free for the thing if you signed up for a Mondex thing. They came into my high school and offered everybody $50 to sign up for this Mondex thing. So I got the $50 and I spent the $50 and I never put any money on it. So it is what it is. You could only spend the $50 at certain stores, right? Like it was downtown, there was 5 or 6 stores you could do it, and there was some in the mall. And they were hoping to expand their network, right? But it didn't work. So people just don't like it because people don't like it. But here's what happened in Thailand, according to Camus, and he is usually pretty reliable. So Thailand says the blueprint for digital control and why it failed. Analyst Max Egan reveals Thailand became a chilling real-world case study for the dangers of a fully integrated digital ID and biometric control grid. The system, sold as convenience, placed every citizen's financial life under one roof. The result, totalitarian control at the touch of a button. Over 3 million bank accounts were frozen simultaneously without warning due to government overreach. Every transaction is monitored. Any perceived discrepancy is flagged as fraud and punished without due process. Victims are locked out instantly, unable to buy food, fill their gas tank, or access their own funds, completely removed from the financial system with no explanation. This has triggered a full-scale crisis. Panic has ensued. Retailers, fearing they'll be next, are now refusing cards and demanding cash. Public confidence in the government and banking system has evaporated. As Egan explains, this government overreach has backfired spectacularly. sorry, I want to pause this here, has backfired spectacularly. The people are now rationally fleeing the digital banking system, rediscovering the critical need for cash as a safeguard against tyrannical control. Thailand is not an anomaly. It is the test case. It's a live fire demonstration of what a central bank digital currency and digital ID system will enable. It is the ultimate weapon of social and financial control. The lesson is clear. This is why we must reject it. The time to wake up and defend financial sovereignty is now. Yeah, probably good advice. Probably. Here is Dr. Virginia J. Johnson. She says, while you're being distracted by ostriches, Air Canada has sneaked in a digital ID for domestic flights. Refuse to download the app. Print your tickets, show your passport, and driver's license only. So here is Air Canada's digital identification is currently available for customers traveling on select domestic flights departing from Vancouver. Customers eligible to visit selected Maple Leaf lounges and Air Canada cafes. To get started, download and install the latest version of the Air Canada mobile app. Oh, it's bundled with the Air Canada mobile app. So like if you go on an Air Canada flight and you want to access the movies on the flight, I think you have to download the app. If you want to access the Wi-Fi, in order to log into the Wi-Fi, you have to download the app, I think. I was on a WestJet flight, and the internet never worked. I paid for the internet, and it never worked. And I was ticked off about it. And I was like, listen, I paid you $9 for access, and this flight is not that long. So, like, it never... And she said, oh, I don't know. I guess our system's not working. And I was like, sir, can I get a refund here? And she was like, oh, yeah, I'll figure it out. I think it took me weeks to get a refund. But in order to access the Wi-Fi network, in order to have the credentials verified or whatever, I had to have the app on my phone before I went onto the plane because I wouldn't be able to connect and download it afterwards, right? So I had it on the app. I had it on my phone before. So I fear that this is all integrated anyway, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, we need full access to your phone, and then the Air Canada app is going to just take a clone of your phone and send it to the agents, and they'll have digital AI inspect your phone for anything that flags anything. Don't worry, no humans will be involved in this, except they're going to log all your data, right? Like, oh man, you were reading an audiobook of what? Right? Like, I think Google, I've already mentioned this, but I think Google deleted an audiobook from my Google Drive, which is ridiculous. But anyway, I digress. I've got a couple of more stories. Oh, we're already at 22 minutes. Oh, okay, I've got to kill the stream. Thanks for watching, everybody on the stream. We do have a kitchen table talk happening today. I've sent the email out, so sorry for the short notice, but hopefully you can make it. 1 o'clock as usual, Toronto time. So if you can make it, that would be wonderful. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of crazy stuff, central bank digital currencies and all sorts of stuff. So if you want the whole show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. If you don't, that's no problem. We'll catch you tomorrow. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will continue on after I kill the stream right now. And thank you for your patience. Okay, we'll carry on. Trish is reporting an American Judiciary Committee has issued a report accusing Mark Carney's GFANZ organization and others of being part of a climate cartel using troublesome antitrust tactics to strong-arm industries into compliance. We've got the report. Find it on the platform that shall not be named. That's Substack. Not publishing here because of the shadow ban. Please retweet. But the report was from March 25. But here it is again anyway. I didn't read it. I don't remember talking about this. This is the Judiciary Committee in the House Judiciary Committee with Jim Jordan as the chairman. So the United States has taken notice of this, and they've known for a while. So, I mean, are they going to do anything about it? The committee has obtained evidence that a climate cartel of left-wing environmental activists and major financial institutions has colluded to force American companies to, quote, decarbonize and reach net zero. Through their commitments to groups such as Climate Action 100+, the members of the climate cartel expressly have agreed to decarbonize the American economy by forcing corporations to disclose their carbon emissions, to reduce their carbon emissions, and to enforce and reinforce their disclosure and reduction commitments by handcuffing company leaders and muzzling corporate free speech and petitioning. The climate cartel has imposed these radical policies by weaponizing ever-escalating pressure tactics that start with negotiations with corporate management, continue to filing and flagging stockholder proxy resolutions, and culminate with taking out the board of directors at real citrant companies. The climate cartel's members include convening and collaborating groups like Climate Action 100, the Net Zero Asset Managers Initiative, the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, GFANZ, blue state pension funds like California Public Employees Retirement System, called PERS, CALPERS. So Carney's got, like, this stuff is not good. But again, Is anything going to happen? It seems like no. Table Salt says, breaking complete collapse of Liberal EV pivot. GM Ultium CAM plant announces phase 2 is suspended indefinitely. Associated nickel mine canceled as well. Complete and utter collapse. So CBC Montreal is reporting on the 16th, 2 major electric vehicle battery supply chain projects fall through in Biencourt, Quebec. Global slowdown in EV battery industry affecting Quebec economy, minister says. So they dumped all this money into this, expecting that this was going to go ahead, and then Trump stopped it because the plan was basically, if you get Ontario regulations and California regulations to be needing electric cars, then it's too expensive for the car companies to make cars for those locations and not switch